It's time for the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games at Southern Utah University in Cedar City. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of a Utah sports tradition at utahsummergames.org. Participate in over 50 sports around the state. Then plan to join the opening ceremonies Friday, June 5th, presented by State Bank of Southern Utah. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games. Looking for music that lifts your spirit and fills your heart? Experience the powerful sound of the Tabernacle Choir at Temple Square. Now streaming on all your favorite music platforms. Find the Tabernacle Choir on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, Amazon Music, and Pandora. Let the music of the Tabernacle Choir at Temple Square inspire you today and every day. Whether you're at home, in the car, or on the go, enjoy the beauty of their world-renowned sound anytime. The Tabernacle Choir at Temple Square, streaming now.
Join Scotty G and the coach tomorrow, 10 to 2, Tim Daly Mazda. 10785 South Automall Drive in Sandy. Join them tomorrow. DJ and PK, here we go. It is Game 5 tonight. And PK doesn't get much better than this. Game 4 didn't convert you to hockey. What will? Lance is converted. It's so cool to see it on TV and realize it's our team and it's our city. Lance is feeling the pride. He's converted. He's on board. But Vernon says the only thing that'll do it is a championship in the Stanley Cup. Aren't people ready? Aren't they there yet? It's go time, isn't it?
Well, I think that for folks in this state who are natives, like Yak, we aren't, but they take a lot of pride in what happens in the state of Utah. Ryan Smith just talks about that. Larry Miller, obviously, that tradition has been, or that feeling of the being a native and growing up here. I guess you don't literally have to be a native, but this has got to be home without question. Like for me, I've lived here for a long time, but it's still not really totally home. Well, if you're from here and you're not from any other place, there's just no doubt. And a lot of people are like that. I happen to be one of those guys who's lived in 4 different states, so it's really hard to claim a singular home. But for those who do claim it, it really means something. And there's sports teams, particularly on the national level where you're not worried about the BYU Utah thing, that really they take great, great pride in that. So that first post that you read, I can see that. It's really cool for them. This is our team, our city, our guys, all that stuff. Yep. That means something because the place has grown, it's continuing to grow, but relatively speaking, we're still a smaller entity. And also, too, we've talked about you travel from Boston to Baltimore is the time, if there's no traffic, that you can travel from here to Las Vegas. Well, from here to Las Vegas, you don't pass a whole lot. There, you pass major cities, all 3 or 4 of them on the way. So we're still isolated geographically, and that gives us a little bit of separation. It's why I say that if the Jazz ever won one, in my mind, it's at least as good as 5, if not more, for the Lakers. Now, if the Mammoth, if they can get there, probably not this year, but we'll see what's down the line, that it really means something because it is our own and it's a representation of this city and of this state.
Jeff, a win would have probably helped me get into hockey, but attending just one game did the trick for me.
Yeah.
So Jeff acknowledges everybody loves a winner, but feeling the magic inside the arena, all that energy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, man. Talking to people who were in the arena. I was with somebody last night. You were with him last Friday, and he was inside the arena. And, yeah, there's a big-time buzz. We were talking with Gordon yesterday, and I wanted him on because I knew that he was, as a kid, he got into hockey back in the Philadelphia area with the Broad Street Bullies and the Philadelphia Flyers, and now it's sort of like a little bit back to the future type thing here with him, because he was inside the arena a couple of nights ago when the game was played, and bringing back feelings of when he was a child and a young lad and getting into hockey. And the funny thing is, right, we're down at Southtown. We're going to meet those friends I just told you, you know who they are, you know who he is, and we're going to meet him over at Roadhouse, right? And so you come in off of, 106 there at that stoplight, and you turn to go north, and you see the facility that they're building, and then we're going to turn left to go over to Roadhouse, right? And as we're turning left, you can see the entrance, and there's a little kid, and he's got a duffel bag, and there's an adult dad, I assume, and he's got a stick that is like 3 times bigger than him. And he's walking into the building, right? And that was really cool to see, because obviously what he was going into was to do some skating and do some hockey. So I don't know if it was a game or practice or whatever it was, but that's what this community can turn into. And Gordon and I were discussing it yesterday as far as, do you think it can ever turn into what the Jazz have in terms of the basketball, and not really just the Jazz, but it's about the sport of basketball. I said, I think it's hard, because I was watching the other day, Monday, when it was raining like crazy, and I've been meaning to watch that Jerry West documentary that they've been talking about. And I got back from the gym, and about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, I said, oh, this is a perfect opportunity. I don't really have anything else to do. The hockey game is not until later, and so I can take the couple hours and watch it. And Jerry talked about, a lot of it was him speaking, and he talked about, he tried to go out for football as a kid, and they didn't have gear. The helmet was too big. He was so small. The helmet was like he could turn it into a 360. So he got out of football, and then he went into basketball because he didn't have a lot of friends. He was a loner, and he could just shoot by himself, right? So I think basketball, it's easier to just go participate in the sport, even if it's a small degree, by yourself. I know I did that. Both my parents worked when I was growing up, right? And so I would just, when the weather was okay, even if it wasn't, I would just shoot endlessly by myself, because I'm a loner too. My sisters were older. They'd long since moved out of the house. And so we had a hoop in the backyard, and I would just shoot endlessly. So I think that the sport of hockey makes it a little more difficult to be on your own, whereas basketball, that's one of the reasons why I think it might be popular. I think it might be hard to catch it, but there's no doubt hockey can make inroads in this state with the Mammoth, and what they're going to do in the community, in addition to winning games on the ice, is going to lead the way, and people are going to get more involved in it.
When you say, can it be like the Jazz, the first thing I thought was, well, are you talking about the Jazz today, or are you talking about the Jazz in '98? Because the thing that happened in the 90s that isn't going to happen again is there weren't as many people and there weren't as many teams. And so literally everyone congregated around the one team we had that could put this place on the map in that kind of way. Now, going forward, assuming we get baseball here in 5 years, it's just going to be a different deal. And different people are going to, depending on their background, are going to go to different sports, and that'll be the primary thing for them. So I think having more teams is a factor. I think you're right about the access to the sport. Can you play it by yourself? Can you just go out and shoot in your driveway, or do you need a ride to wherever the nearest rink is? And I think the Mammoth get this. I think Ryan Smith gets this. I think that's why he made that offer to municipalities about, hey, if your city will build a rink, we'll throw some money in and make it happen. Because if you have that experience of, walking in, and this because you know it when you covered the Kings, and you walk into hockey and it's cold. There's like a chill in the air. It's something, it just gets you right away. If you can't even see the ice, it's different. And so when you get to the point where people are having that response, and that just triggers, like you said, the memories for Gordon, you walk in and the building's got a certain chill, and it brings these memories flooding back. That's kind of the magic that they need to create. And the winning and the energy in the building, I think that's where it is very similar, and they can get it. Now, how widespread does it get? Tell me how many rinks they are, how many kids grow up having that experience. And they're trying to recreate it. They're trying to do the same thing they've done with junior Jazz with hockey. So you got to give it a few years and let those kids grow up. And, then they're taking their own kids to the ice. So over time, it could really build, assuming they're good, and it looks like they're going to be good for a while.
Yeah, I think that when you speak of widespread, it won't be as widespread.
It really can't.
But it'll be
You just can't have as
widespread.
many rinks as you have gyms.
It'll be widespread enough.
Playgrounds. You're right, yes. Especially because it's not just the playing it. I didn't play hockey, and I wonder what percentage of the people in the building didn't play hockey, but they're still having a good time there. Now, the people who did play hockey, and I know some of them who've grown up and their kids have been playing it, and it's a high school sport as a club. It's not UHSA sanctioned, but the people who are into it are way into it. And I know some of them, and some of them were on social media. They were absolutely beside themselves during that game. And they're going to talk it up. They're going to be talking to their friends and neighbors, and that'll help draw people in because it is about a sense of community. It is something you do together with family and friends and neighbors.
Yeah.
So that'll help sell it.
Yeah, I think that, like, if you were to take ratings, what is it? You said it was on TNT or TBS tonight? Is that what you said? Whatever channel it's on. If they can get the local ratings here and the in-state ratings, I think that will be pretty awesome. The one thing, though, that I think that plays against it is it takes long. And you can't, if you got to go to work the next day, it's hard to stay up.
Yes, and I think that's a big deal with the youth, even aside from that. The number of people I know, including my own kids, but tons of their friends are like 2 hours is their limit, and even that is pushing it. My kid would watch a lot of football, but he was watching the second half of games. And when the next game would start, he'd be like, this is like 3 hours. Now, you know, he flips on the TV, and it's, 21-17, early third quarter. Yeah, you got him for an hour and a half. But 3 hours, 2:45, that's a long time. And we just saw it with baseball. Baseball shortened their game, and but change turns people off a lot of times. People are comfortable with what they're comfortable with. But, man, they made a major change putting in a pitch clock. That is a big change, but that was just universally embraced. And it cut half an hour off the games, and it made everything better. It's just more popular. Everybody loves it. You got to move it along.
Yeah, I think that's different. You're talking regular season. I'm talking playoff when they want to be involved in the whole game. A regular season, you got one of 82 and you miss a few. I mean, everybody does. It's no big deal. But in the playoff, you want to watch it. But when they factor into overtime and they're ending at 11:30 at night,
Yikes.
And kids got to get up and go to school, and then they may have, if they play sports, they got a 6 a.m. workout and whatnot. And if they got a 6 a.m. workout, that means you as a parent, you're going to be up.
5:30 car ride.
Yeah, and so, or even if they can drive, you're still going to be up. That's just the way it is. So I think that the nature of the sport and then taking these 20-minute breaks, it's an evening of long commitments, and I think that it's not going to change. So it's not. I don't think the commissioner is going to say, "Well, we're going to have speed up rules," because the actual time of playing in the 20 minutes goes by pretty fast. It's just the breaks and all, and then obviously the chance of having overtime leads it to a little bit more difficulty. Whereas basketball, pretty much 2.5 hours that's all you're going to get. Even if it's a 5-minute overtime, that goes by in a blink of an eye. So those are reasons why I think that can get in the way. But the good thing about it is coming home for Friday, most folks don't have to get up Saturday morning. So I think that that's just growing it even more. And even if they lose this series, this is going to be a bonanza in terms of growth of the sport and with popularity in the community. And people are going to get involved, and they're going to get hooked because it's dramatic. Playoff hockey, playoff overtime hockey is extremely dramatic, and that's what we want. The bottom line is we want entertainment, and this sport at the playoff level is entertaining.
And I think the thing that is not only is the game entertaining, but the show around the game is entertaining. The introductions are dramatic. When they win and they bring out the 3 stars at the end of the game, that's dramatic. From the lighting to the music to in the playoffs, all the towels and all that. And the energy is so good. And people are paying a lot of money to be entertained. It doesn't matter if it's concerts. It doesn't matter if it's the NBA or the NHL. Paying a lot to go to BYU. We just heard about that with them renewing the football tickets and the basketball tickets. So people, they want a lot. but it really seems like the show delivers a lot. You know, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and the last 2 playoff games prove that. But the show both nights was really good. And that's something they are focused on for sure. I mean, kids love the Mammoth. I mean, that's just, you know, the Mammoth and the Zamboni. It's silly, it's goofy, but it's part of the show, and it's entertaining people.
But that's just the folks in the arena. I think your sport wants to grow far beyond the folks who are in the arena. Because if you're in the arena, most likely you're already in.
You're already in because you're taking,
and you're going to the game, and then just the time commitment. I'm talking about the folks who are now being exposed to it at home, which I've had a lot of. Just it's anecdotal type situations. It's no scientific study. I'm not conducting a poll of a man on the street type thing, but just folks who are talking to me about it. That they're not going, or maybe they have gone or a time or two, but they have been gripped by watching it on television. That's where the explosion of what this thing has done already, even if they lose, it has been a wildly successful Mammoth first year, so to speak. I know they were there last year, but the identity of the Mammoth has really, really caught on. And it's only going to go up from here. It's not going to go down because we know the team is set up to win for the foreseeable future, or at least be competitive for the foreseeable future.
That all seems like a guarantee. And I know there's no guarantees in sports, so we ought to be careful about saying it. But with the young guys they've got in the minors, with the young guys they've got on the club, and with their ability to make moves and add players, which we've seen on multiple occasions here, just in the 2 years they've been here, they've made several moves and added several key players. The Sergachev deal, that was clearly a big deal. The Paterka move, that was an aggressive move. They've made other moves and brought other guys in. So you're right. The arrow is up, and it should stay up at a reasonably high level for a while. The jump, as Pablo always tells us almost every week when he's on, the jump from good to great is tricky. But they ought to be good for a while. And now can you get to very good or great? Well, time will tell on that.
Yeah, I think they will. But things got to continue to health-wise and so forth. So the best thing that can happen is win this series here and see what happens in the next one, who you play. We don't know right now, but we obviously don't know if they're going to win. But if they manage to pull this off and find, obviously they've got to win a game in Vegas, which it's not insurmountable by any stretch, would be really cool. As I was talking with Mike Folta yesterday, go ahead and win tonight and then come back on a Friday night. And we were joking yesterday, man, the Coke Zeros would be flowing.
All right, it's TNT tonight, 8 o'clock or 8:20. And then Friday night when they're back home, it's 8 o'clock or 8:20 on ESPN. And then Sunday, if it does go to a Game 7, which, hey, they were tied at 1, they were tied at 2, they might be tied at 3, we might have a Game 7. That one's still to be determined. We'll see what they do if it gets to a Game 7 in Las Vegas. It'll depend on what happens in some of the other series too. All right, DJ and PK, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're getting a lot of reaction, PK. Ute and Cougar fans very intrigued by what is going on at Texas Tech and what it means for the local teams. We will get to that next. DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This year, experience the NHL playoffs your way. Want to watch a single, do or die Game 7, a full week of heavy-hitting back-and-forth series? Then check out Sling's 1, 3, and 7-day passes. Watch the chase for the cup on ESPN and TNT, starting as low as $4.99. No long-term contracts or overpaying. Just live hockey at home or when you want it. Sling lets you do that. Visit sling.com to learn more.
Make game day yours. Tickets, food and drinks, stats, and streaming. Everything you need is in the Utah Mammoth app. Download today and make game night easy. Download on both Android and iPhone. Tusk Top.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5 KSL Sports Zone. We had Pete Souza on earlier this morning, Big 12 Radio. He does a show all about the Big 12, and we were talking with him about the Brendan Sorsby situation, the former Indiana and Cincinnati quarterback, transferring to Texas Tech, but now allegations that he's gambling on his phone, and then he was in Indiana. He gambled on Indiana games. And so now there's all these stories about how he's going to get suspended. He's not going to be able to play this year. There is a chance that he goes to court and gets that lifted, so we don't know anything for sure. But if he is out, how much does this situation help the chances for BYU and Utah? And PK, just because it's a serious question with serious implications doesn't mean that the rivalry can't trump all these other things. Am I right?
It do.
Cheese Fries, who's a huge Ute fan, it doesn't help BYU. It pretty much guarantees Utah will make the Big 12 championship game.
I think it helps everybody.
First string bench warmer at head bench warmer. For BYU, they don't need the help. For Utah, it won't matter. So there they are. We got that out of the way. The Utes and Cougars are both taking their shots at each other.
I think it helps for 15 teams. But I also think that this is not necessarily a devastating blow to what Texas Tech is trying to accomplish. Now, Sorsby is really good. I came back from last year talking with him at Big 12 Media Day and talking to others about him, that he's really good. And I like him. And if I were his people, I don't know, depending on, does he want to stay because he's got the financial situation if he plays, and if he doesn't get that money. So that factors in it. But from a football standpoint, go ahead, take care of this rehabilitation or therapy, whatever you want to call it there. I don't know what it would be called. But go through that and make yourself eligible for the draft. They have that supplemental draft, and you have that opportunity because I think he will make an NFL roster at some point and then go from there. So he can recoup that money in the NFL if he stays for a few years. But if he wants to fight it and Cody Campbell wants to get involved or whatever it might be, so be it. But just for the sake of argument, assuming that he's not going to be on the team, I don't necessarily think it's a devastating blow, but I do think it can potentially knock them down a peg, which therefore could improve the chances of the other contenders, whoever they might be. And as we sit here right now at the end of April, I do believe Utah and BYU will be competitors to get in that conference title game. And we were talking about this yesterday. Sign me up right now if the first Friday in December at the Dallas Cowboys Stadium, it is BYU versus Utah. That would be absolutely awesome. I would take that all the time. Yeah. Maybe when I'm done working, that might be another story, but I'm not, and not intending to anytime soon. So with that in mind, I would love to see those two teams. And I think that it is a possibility, but it's no more of a possibility or any less of a possibility than probably about 10 other scenarios.
We do have plenty of people saying that this ups the chance of a BYU-Utah rematch in the conference title game.
I think
that
it
has
does.
occurred to multiple people.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, you said Utah and BYU are competitors, and I think that's a widely held view, that they are certainly both in the mix for the conference title game with Tech. But how much wider does that circle get? As far as Pete was talking at Baylor, I think Houston, off the improvement they made last year, you got to put them in the mix. What about the two Arizona schools?
I put them in the mix, yes.
Yeah. So now we're 7 deep for 2 spots.
Right.
And that's assuming that we're right. What if we're wrong and we're overlooking somebody?
Oh, well, I'm not necessarily done in you just asked me what about the two Arizonas.
Yep.
Right now, I would say yes. Now, recognizing that injuries could derail it and there could be one or both that when we get to November, the end of November, it's like, no, it didn't happen. I understand that. But we're looking at it right now, and I think those two teams, having gone 6-3 last year, deserve an opportunity to be respected as potential contenders.
If I've left a team out, I would think the next one I should mention would be TCU. I didn't mention them. That would be 8. That's half the league.
Yeah, and that's
what
what
we saw ASU do the from the bottom of the league to the league champ thing 2 years ago. So maybe Rich Rod in his second year takes off.
There will be improvement. There was improvement last year as the season progressed within the actual season itself. There's no question. If you followed them, you would know that that team got better, and that team had a major overhaul in the manner that Oklahoma State is going to have that. So I think that what we saw with West Virginia last year, I think we're going to see Oklahoma State be in that category, although I think that Oklahoma State in their first year with everything new, and they've got the North Texas folks and the quarterback coming over, that they have an opportunity to be better than Oklahoma State was last year. So, I mean, they were a pushover, right? Big-time pushover last year. It was a disaster. I think they will be wildly better. Now, what does that mean in terms of winning and losing or the records? I don't know. I don't want to say I have no clue, but it's too much up in the air. But I do think that instead of looking at, that's just about a guaranteed W, you won't have that this year. I think that many of these teams, Cincinnati always seems to be at least halfway decent. I don't see a lot of promise for Colorado, but maybe they shock the world.
I think the thing that's happening with Oklahoma State, and they were 0-9 in league last year. I mean, just a complete mess. But I think they are banking on what we saw at Indiana. They bring in the North Texas coach. He brings a bunch of players with him. It's an immediate shift in attitude, culture, energy, whatever word you want to use. And nobody thought when Indiana went to James Madison to get a coach who brought along a bunch of players. Well, James Madison guys, they can't possibly be difference makers in the Big Ten. But they upped their game very quickly. Hard to believe Oklahoma State could hit in that way, but you know that's the recipe they're going for. And even if they don't make it, they could wreck somebody else along the way. Not Utah and BYU, because they don't play Utah and BYU.
I think they'll be a lot more competitive.
Yeah. But they play plenty of these other contenders. So.
Yeah, and I know this might sound harsh, or not harsh, but stupid. I think that it was easier for Indiana, not last year, but the first year of Cignetti, it was easier for them to do what they did in the Big Ten than it would be in the Big 12. And you may say, wow, the Big Ten, blah, blah, blah. The Big Ten is extremely top-heavy.
Yes.
And then once you got past maybe fourth place on down, it was a lot more manageable. And there's so much mediocrity. The Big Ten basically is a conference of mediocrity. And I know that's shocking to say, but
how else do you describe Nebraska? Yeah. And Wisconsin wants to get back to mediocrity. Penn State wants to get back to mediocrity. Now, 2 years ago, they were good when Indiana was good.
Yeah.
But they were bad last year.
I think what you're looking at, you know what I mentioned, a team like Wisconsin and Michigan State.
Purdue,
those teams
Michigan
have had their
State,
runs, but they've been down of late, obviously.
Purdue and Michigan State are pretty messed up.
I think
right
that
now.
the Big 12, the strength is in the balance to be able to do what they did. You look at Indiana and Ohio State last year, both go undefeated, and Oregon loses one. Well, Texas Tech, it was hard for them to go undefeated. I mean, they lost a game. That's the nature of this conference. I think it's a little bit deeper in terms of talent. Maybe it doesn't have the supreme talent, and that's what you want to be on the national stage, have the high flyers. I understand that. But that's what makes, for me as a fan, that's make this conference fun. But I do think that there might be an opportunity for somebody to catch fire and have the level of success that can have them be ranked in the top 10 most of the season, or ranked in the top 8 when the committee starts doing its first poll. Was that the end of October? Is that what they do it? Somewhere around Halloween?
Yep.
Do their thing. Yeah. I think there's an opportunity. And I think both locals have that opportunity, particularly if the Cougars are knocking off Notre Dame.
I was about to say, these non-conference games, we'll know early on whether the league is setting itself up or not. Texas Tech doesn't really have a big non-conference
It does not.
game.
It absolutely does not.
Utah has Arkansas. BYU Notre Dame is obviously a big opportunity.
Well, it's the premier one.
Yeah. Houston doesn't really have an opportunity. So.
No, it's Notre Dame.
Yeah.
It's Notre Dame in Provo.
And probably the next best game, ASU and Texas A&M.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Iowa plays Iowa State every year. So there's an opportunity. Because I think Iowa is that second tier of the Big Ten. Iowa, Illinois, USC.
Yeah, but October 17th, if the Cougars should find a way to be undefeated and Notre Dame's coming to town, that's going to be as big a game as you're going to have in terms of attention and all that stuff. Now, it's not going to be something that I can say, oh, my gosh, they are going to be undefeated, because they got to go to TCU. They play Iowa State. Arizona's going to be tough. They play Arizona in the second week of the season. So right off the bat there, that first conference game is going to be difficult, because I think Arizona's going to be good. I expect them to be good. They were good last year, and I see no reason why they're not good. And then, they've got some tough games. That's a pretty good schedule for what the Cougars have.
But Notre Dame should be undefeated, right? I mean, their schedule just doesn't look that.
You want to talk about a
year.
schedule that's cake? Notre Dame.
Notre Dame, yeah. All those teams we were talking about that are negotiable. Wisconsin, Michigan State, Purdue. Are you going crazy over those three?
Well, I want to see. You got some new stuff there at Michigan State. See how that plays out.
How about Rice, North Carolina?
No,
and Stanford?
it's Miami, but that's after the fact of playing by BYU.
Yeah, I think Notre Dame's 6-0 when they
and that Miami thing. When they get to that, that's not until November that they will have the situation where Miami, you kept us out, blah blah blah. So that's going to be a lot of hoopla when we get to that point, and it's in November when college football really starts to raise. But yeah, you can make a case that Notre Dame would be that situation. I would love to see it. Have both those teams coming in, and they're going to start. BYU now is going to start fairly high in the ranking because of the fact that they've won double-digit games the last 2 years, and the Bears coming back.
If both of those teams are undefeated, you're looking at a top 10 at worst showdown.
I would say so. I would agree with that, yes. That would, at worst, yeah. Maybe, and it depends on what happens with other teams.
Yeah, but it could be top 5 type deal as well.
Yeah, if it broke your way, that possibly could be. And that would be potentially the premier game of the week. And I haven't looked and see what October 17th is, and nor will I. We'll wait, because it's pointless.
There's a lot that could happen.
There's a million things that can happen between now and then.
But if it's undefeated Notre Dame, it's pretty close to the list of premier games.
Yeah, I would say that chance, that game, if that's the case, where both teams are undefeated, I think that chance has a chance to be sold out in Provo.
Nah, nice. I thought you were going to say game dad, and now you're going to go with sold out.
Yeah, I think there's a chance.
Standing room only? Got it.
I think there's Jason Buck may get his wish. They may expand to 80,000.
Temporary bleachers in the corners?
Why not? Money to be made.
I totally agree. And Jason's just sitting over there. I've been saying it for a long time. I think more luxury suites around the top rim of the stadium, like Lambeau Field.
Well, then put them in.
I know, right? Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, if it's one thing the Catholics and the Latter-day Saints know, it's money, right? There's money to be had there, man. Yeah, absolutely. That would be something. And I would love to see it. I'd absolutely love to see it. Pencil me down. I may cover that game. I think there's about a 99.9% chance I'll cover that game.
There you go. All right, DJ and PK, it's 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. We got to take a break. When we come back, we have some concert tickets to give away. So that's on the way. And I'm sure by then we'll have people tweeting at us about whatever the big games are on October 17th. I'm sure the Cougar fans are already scoping out whether they can get game day here or not for a BYU Notre Dame game. DJ and PK, we'll get to all of that. And hockey playoffs. It's Game 5 tonight. Coming up at the top of the hour, we are going to Las Vegas. It's Game 5 in a 2-2 series. What is going to happen? Any ideas? We'll talk with Ken Bulkey. Sinbin Vegas, talking NHL playoffs, 9 o'clock right here on The Zone.
This stuff is available everywhere.
Wherever you are, the KSL Sports Zone will be right there with you. It's the KSL Sports app.
I love it.
Where you can get the latest podcasts, up to the second breaking news, and analysis of the teams you can't live without right from your phone. And wherever in the world you may be, you can have DJ and PK, Scotty and the coach, and Jake and Ben tag along with live streaming of your favorite shows. Download the KSL Sports app and never miss a thing. Presented by University of Utah Health. Health is in our DNA. Learn more at uofuhealth.org. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. This year, experience the NHL playoffs your way. Want to watch a single, do or die Game 7, a full week of heavy-hitting back-and-forth series? Then check out Sling's 1, 3, and 7-day passes. Watch the Chase for the Cup on ESPN and TNT, starting as low as $4.99. No long-term contracts or overpaying. Just live hockey at home or when you want it. Sling lets you do that. Visit sling.com to learn more.
We got more people weighing in on college football. What is going to happen now that Texas Tech has lost their starting quarterback, apparently? We'll go under that until some court says something differently. We'll go with that theory. Hombre de Queso says, hey, it depends on who the person is who replaces Sorsby. Maybe there's some hope with Hammond. Maybe they can find a way to bring somebody else in. Their third-string guy is a Tulsa transfer? Where are we going with this?
Kirk Francis, yeah. He's a Tulsa kid. He was a walk-on, a preferred walk-on, I guess. I think he ended up starting 12 games, but I look for him as a caretaker, if that's the case, earlier in the season. My guess would be, unless something happens, which I don't put it past Texas Tech to make something happen, because money is a mover and a shaker, and they've got it, that he would start those earlier games and that Houston game, probably him, and then see what Hammond. If Hammond can come back healthy, he's been in the program a number of years, and he was touted. It's not like he's somebody will just take a flyer for depth. No, I don't think that. And the Ute fans saw that because he looked really good in his opportunity to play. Wasn't, as good the whole game against the Sun Devils, although they did have a nice rally.
Yep.
But he'll have experience. That's why I think they can still be where they need to be, because I think there's enough time for him to get ready. But, you never know coming off an injury how that's going to be. And obviously it's a serious injury, so we'll see there. And they went and got Sorsby for a reason, because they thought he was better, right? And they want to win at the highest level in 2026 and 27, 28, and so forth and so on. So it's a blow. And I think it allows other teams a glimmer of optimism. But that's all it is a glimmer. You still got to go play, and you got to do your thing and see what happens there. And there's several teams now in this conference are thinking, hey, we got a shot. We got a shot to be in that title game and get to that game and see what happens, right? Texas Tech rolled BYU last year, so it was somewhat predictable. The year before, we didn't really know what was going to happen with Iowa State and ASU, and it turns out that Iowa State wasn't up to the task, and that was a shocker. So maybe shockers become the norm, and therefore they're not shockers anymore.
Well, there's so many kids transferring. I mean, the assumption now is Iowa State lost their coach and a bunch of their key players to Penn State, so the assumption is they're down. But who's to say? Is North Texas really going to pump Oklahoma State up right away? It could work.
It'll make them better. There's no question it'll make them better.
This is a pretty dismissive take from last BYU Jedi. But maybe he'll be right. He says, no real impact. Both those teams smoked Cincinnati last year, and Sorsby is by no means the key to Texas Tech's excellence. Can Texas Tech do what they did last year with Hammond? And that was more than Utah and BYU could handle. And let's assume that they reload, because obviously they had a bunch of seniors. They sent a bunch of guys to the draft, in one case very quickly. But who's to say they can't reload? They still got the money.
They do have the money. There's no doubt about it.
This class as they did with the last one.
Yeah, and Cody Campbell, right after that Oregon loss, we're going to double down. Mm-hmm. And then just a few days later, I think it was like January 4th, they get Sorsby. Then on January 5th, in Times Square, on that marquee that covers a big chunk of real estate there, they have Sorsby up in the banner in the marquee in Times Square. So the next day. So they paid for that. So they do have all sorts of money. And Campbell, it's funny, Campbell dumps all this money into Texas Tech, And you're thinking, oh, my gosh, dude, relax. But then in the next breath, he says, man, college athletics, it's not sustainable. And we're going to lose a lot of sports, particularly the women's sports. We got to make these changes, right? And he wants to get in. He's got the ear of the president of the United States and all this stuff. And they had a little battle with Yormark. I think Yormark might feel threatened to an extent. Because they're going to play that game against Houston on a Friday night, and they don't like that. And then Yormark says, well, Cody Campbell doesn't run the conference. So there's a little bit of
there's something there, right?
Yeah, there's a rivalry there.
You don't just say that. There's something there.
Yeah, and Campbell probably has the ear and more on speed dial of some of the political movers and shakers that Yormark does not have. Because money talks, right? And so that money always has the loudest voice in the room. And so we'll see how that plays out. I do think it's hard for me to think defensively they were just awesome, right?
Yep.
And they went and got all those one-year guys. They were transfers, but they just weren't transfers on the come. No, they were already there, and they were one-and-done guys. And they leave. Rodriguez wasn't. He was a holdover. But they had other guys along the defensive line, and they had a defensive back who was a one-and-done who got drafted, and away they go. Now, you bring in these dudes, and you can go look at the list. Anybody can call it up. Just put in Texas Tech transfer portal guys for 2026, and you can see their names and their star ranking, and there's a bunch of guys. I'm assuming that they can replicate, maybe not exactly, but good enough to be the favorite again. But the Sorsby thing throws a little wrench into that situation, and that's where teams have to take advantage of it, particularly the teams that play them, or if you don't play them, consider it a break and take advantage of it in other ways by not having to play them, which you mentioned BYU and Utah, and then if you have got to play them, you got to beat them in December because that's the guarantee. We talked about how the Utes, when they won the Rose Bowl, it wasn't, or when they got to the Rose Bowl, I should say, it wasn't a beauty contest. You did it on the field. You didn't need any freaking vote. You didn't need somebody in a Dallas boardroom deciding that you're good enough to come to the party. You took away all that equation and all that worry. You got the job done yourselves, and you were able to go. Well, do that same thing here now and win the freaking thing in Dallas, and away you go. And you're in the playoff, and then you get who you get. Every level of tournament at the collegiate level is going to be decided by some type of a committee. That's just the way it is. But take that out of the equation, and I think these two local teams have a shot to do that.
When we come back, we are going to Las Vegas. Ken Bolke, Send in Vegas on Game 5 tonight, the Golden Knights and the Mammoth. That is next. Stay with us.
This year, experience the NHL playoffs your way. Want to watch a single, do-or-die Game 7, a full week of heavy-hitting back-and-forth series? Then check out Sling's 1, 3, and 7-day passes. Watch the Chase for the Cup on ESPN and TNT, starting as low as $4.99. No long-term contracts or overpaying. Just live hockey at home or when you want it. Sling lets you do that. Visit sling.com to learn more.